Welcome to the Speed League podcast from Southern California. I'm Kelly Hansen. You can play free season-long fantasy motorsports at speedleaguefantasy.com. We're talking Supercross today, but I mean, man, we just this week had Supercross, MotoGP, and F1 Fantasy all in one weekend. So any of that you're interested in, go ahead and sign up today. The seasons are started, but you can still sign up. Just get a group of 4 friends together and get going today. I am here as always with the man, the myth, the legend, Ryan Berkman. What's up, Ryan?
How's it going, everyone? And I do just want to point out that, yes, we had 3 series going this weekend, and I, in fact, won all 3 series. So I got the hat trick, actually dominated Kelly in the MotoGP Fantasy Race 1. So it was a good week for your boy.
Yeah, you did. You won all 3, and then you and me were. I won 2 of them, and then you and me went head to head in MotoGP, and you beat me. So congratulations.
Love it.
But I did win my Supercross fantasy matchup. Before we really get into that, I wanted to actually start today off with a moment of silence for the 32nd board girl from the 450 main. That was, I mean, whoever had that on their prop bet, it just paid off big. Have you ever seen anything like that in Supercross before?
Never seen anything like that. And actually, I was concerned that like a foot peg might have hit her in the shin or the thigh, and gassed her up pretty well. But I actually watched an interview with her, and she said that the like board she was holding actually protected her from getting,
As a
gassed.
shield.
Yeah. Yeah, but that was insane. Like watching it live, I actually went back a few times to see like what the fuck happened. Like, dude, that is crazy. That's something like
And
that.
I saw the little interview with her too, and one of the excuses she gave is that she's like, yeah, I crossed the track a few times, but I guess because it was 450s, they came around faster. I was like, that's I'm not quite sure about that, but I love too if you actually go back, you can see as she's like trying to cross and then sees the bikes coming and like jet goes flying around the outside of her, and then she tries to turn around and Cooper Webb like hits her on the inside, and the AMA guys on the other side just kind of giving her like a backup move. But weird one and kind of unprofessional thing. It's like something you would have seen like in F1 in the 70s.
Yeah, something tells me that's not the last time she'll get plowed by a Supercross rider, though.
How dare you? How dare you assume that a monster girl would fraternize with Supercross riders, even though, half of those dudes are married to monster girls. Okay. So we want to talk about the races. Honestly, the races were not super exciting this week. I mean, we actually had repeat winners in both classes with Jet Lawrence and Tom Vial. But I'll tell you what, our fantasy matchup, at least mine, was very exciting.
Yeah, I'm the one who like enters all the results. Like MotoGP, I have to wake up at 2 a.m. But like Supercross, at least, I get the luxury of like being able to watch the race live and then enter them at a decent hour. And I entered everything in, and like my dad was like playing Kelly, and now Kelly and my
That's Whole
dad have
Shot
a
King.
yeah, it's Whole Shot King, and like Kelly and my dad have a little unique relationship because like me and Kelly have been friends since we were 2 years old, go back over 30 years. And like Kelly's grown up with my dad, and like me and Kelly have done some shenanigans in the past, some at the cost of my dad's respect in his eyes for a Kelly. And like my dad just takes so much pride in like beating Kelly, and every week wants to stick it to him. And
okay, so we have a huge rivalry for sure, and I mean, last year, I mean, he beat me in the championship by, I mean, 3 points, whatever it was. So I mean, we have that rolling for us, and there is some irony here because that championship was basically lost for me in no small part because of Cody Schock, which we can get into exactly what the reason for that is. But Cody Schock was my saving grace this week.
Coming full circle. But yeah, me and my dad talk about like the upcoming race all week. He was playing Kelly. It's a big week. So I enter results, like the unofficial results. And it turns out that he beats Kelly. It was close. It was by 5 points. And he's all woohoo,
6 points.
And all, or 6 points.
6 points. Let's be really specific here because it's actually important.
So then the AMA comes out with a penalty for like Hayden Deegan for like cutting the track on like lap 1 in the main, and it drops him back 2 positions. And those 2 people that happened to gain positions from Deegan's, lost positions were 2 of Kelly's guys, and Kelly had them one off on predictions. So he then hit 2 dead on predictions, which moved him up to tying Whole Shot King 140. And then obviously if it's a tie in the like overall points, it goes to who has the most prediction points. Kelly had the most prediction points, so he ended up winning like an hour after the race ended, after I already talked to Whole Shot King, after he already celebrated, and I had to call and break the news to him, and he was absolutely devastated and pissed off and cussing up a storm. And like Kelly loves
Yeah.
nothing more than like hearing that.
I don't blame him at all for being furious about that, because I mean, it's probably one of the most rare occurrences I've ever witnessed in our like several years of playing this game. I mean, it had to go absolutely perfectly in order for that to work out, and it did. So yeah, and I mean, that was a big matchup actually for us too. And I mean, again, if anyone actually wants to check out the specifics here, we've posted all the matchup results on our social media: Speed League Fantasy, Instagram, Facebook. But he and I are 1-2 in the championship, and if he would have beat me, he would have tied us up on wins for the season. But instead, now I've extended it to a couple win lead. So yeah, that was a huge one. That was awesome. But yeah, you won yours pretty big with John. John had Christian Craig in, and Malcolm was having a tough
So I
time.
called him and I was like, dude, like, what the hell's going on? Why didn't you like set your lineup? And he said that he was camping Saturday night out in the middle of like freaking nowhere and like didn't have reception to like set his lineup. And I guess obviously didn't know that like Hunter Lawrence wasn't going to race. Christian Craig, he like should have had out, obviously, but yeah, it was zero
Out
reception.
camping, prioritizing his family over fantasy supercross like an
I don't know. Can you
absolute
believe that?
sucker. Come on, get it together, John. But so you got a bye week this week in Supercross.
Love it.
But yeah, I mean, I helped you out. I mean, if you want to get into the championship this year, I mean, I'm extending my lead. Your honestly best bet is beating Old Shot King, and so I gave you another little shot. I made it a little bit closer.
Thank you, Kelly. I appreciate that. I can always count on you for throwing me a bone.
But okay, so talking about, I mean, let's go on the 450 race at first. The track was, I mean, I think it wasn't a really exciting race a lot because of the track layout. It was really hard to pass. It was very one lined. There was no whoop section, which is very rare for a Supercross track. And then they got, we've had so much rain, a lot of mudders this year, and this wasn't a mudder, but they had rain earlier in the day, and that rutted it up. And I think just kind of helped to, have there was a lot of flat turns that just got one rut up the inside, so no one could sort of take multiple lines or do anything like that. And yeah, made it difficult to get some good passes going.
Yeah, and like Tomac beat Jet in the heat. So I was thinking, okay, Tomac's really turning it on, sticking it to Jet. But then in the main, I mean, Jet just got that whole shot, got out in front, said adios. And yeah, it wasn't really that exciting of a race up front. But like Webb with the second place, always consistent. Love Webb. Overall, it was pretty straightforward race, but there was a lot of little single storylines with like Jet and Anderson in like qualifying. Actually, that was like super crazy. How I mean, really, I don't think that Jet meant to like break check Anderson, but obviously there's some history there. And I guess Anderson felt like Jet did something wrong in like qualifying, and he kind of got up and was screaming at Jet, giving him a little attitude. But I watched that a few times, and I don't really think that Jet did anything wrong.
No, I don't think so either. I mean, first of all, it's like it's qualifying, and I mean, Jet was kind of fully in front of Anderson and like had the line, and I mean, Anderson still was like charging up behind him anyways. So I kind of pinned that one on Anderson, and it's one of a couple cases we'll talk about tonight of someone getting mad at someone else for a crash that was kind of their own fault. The other one being, I think, Hayden Deegan. But yeah, that was kind of odd, but. I mean, yeah, it all works out for Jet in the end tonight. I mean, now for the first time, getting two Supercross 450 wins in a row and really just finding his groove.
Yeah, and this is 100% now, without a doubt, Jets championship to lose. I mean, there was, some question going into the season. Like, Jet hasn't been dominating like some people thought he would. I mean, he has 4 race wins now, which is by far the most out of anyone. But I mean, now with those 2 back-to-back wins, I don't think anyone is stopping him, barring something catastrophic happening to Jet. I mean, always there's like injuries in like Supercross, but I mean, this is for sure Jet's championship to win. But I don't think that I would predict Jet won yet, just because there's so much chaos, so much going on. I would probably still stick with 2 for the prediction, but I mean, chances are that he's going to get his 3rd win in a row here coming up with the Triple Crown in Indy.
Yeah, I wouldn't be shocked. And I mean, his starts have been pretty on point, and that's really what it comes down to. And I mean, unfortunately, I actually said right before the 450 main starts, I was like, I hope Jet doesn't get whole shot, because if Jet gets whole shot, I mean, the story of this year is he gets whole shot and he's gone. Nobody can touch him, and it just really makes the race more interesting if he doesn't. But yeah, he's doing really well with that. And yeah, I was hoping someone was going to be able to bring it to him. Sexton won his heat race by 10 seconds. And I actually went and did like a little stat comparison. And I mean, Sexton was running faster in his heat race than anybody in any of the heat races. I mean, including Jet in his heat race. So I really thought Sexton was going to have something for last night, and he just kind of poo-pooed it in the main. He was up running behind Cooper in the main event. And, like we talked about, difficult track to pass, couldn't really get by him, spent a bunch of laps just sitting right behind him until Roxon caught up. And then Roxon went, all right, if you're not going to pass him, I will, and blew right by Sexton and Cooper. And so Roxon able to make it happen when Sexton wasn't.
Yeah, and for Sexton to be the like number 1 overall qualifier, you would think that, he has it on this track, but he started 4th and he finished 4th. So there just wasn't really any like you said, it's a hard track to pass on, but yet some people were like making passes. Roxon was making
Mm-hmm.
passes. So it's not impossible. And again, just this season, I mean, as a whole, we're like about halfway through now, like a little over halfway. So we could make some solid opinions on everyone. Chase Sexton has been a little bit of a letdown. He was our like number 2 overall ranked guy going into the season. And it just seems like he's not quite as fast as Webb or like consistent as like some other guys. So it has been a slight disappointment, but he's still in like 3rd in the points. He's not too far behind, but I would have really liked to see Sexton and Jet kind of duking it out more than we have seen.
Totally, totally. And yeah, Sexton has that little hand thing, but I mean, what he's saying now, at least, is that it's not really causing him a problem. Like that, he's able to do all his training. He's got plenty of bike time, and like all that's good. I think he was saying the hand may not be absolutely 100%, but as far as he says, is not causing him an issue. So you got to deliver the results at that point. But yeah, I mean, I had him predicted 3rd, and honestly, after I watched the heat race, I was like, damn, I wish I predicted him 2nd. I think he's going to take home a 1st or a 2nd tonight, and yeah, just couldn't really make it happen in the main. But yeah, like you said, Webb up there in 2nd. I mean, Webb's just really being consistent guy this year. I mean, unfortunately, he doesn't have like the raw speed to beat Jet, but I mean, Cooper Webb kind of seems like the best guy to um, be the other top championship contender if Jet starts to flounder.
Yeah, I would definitely say so. And there was a lot of question marks with Webb going into the season. But I mean, now all those questions are answered. He's like up there, number 2 in the points, super consistent, getting podiums all the time. And yeah, I mean, I would love to have Webb on my team. Oh, wait, I do.
Yeah, 2-3, Webb and Roxon. So I mean, yeah, that's good times for you. Roxon has been looking really, really good. Honestly, I kind of like him for next week too. He's kind of hit and miss with triple crowns, but he actually won Indy last year, so not a bad pick for next week.
Yeah, and actually, since we're here, I have Webb as my podium lock next week. I mean, he is a like decent starter. He's actually second behind Jet on his starts. He's like averaging 5.5 position going into a turn one, which like doesn't sound very good, but like Jet is like fourth average going into turn one. So like triple crowns start really important because the races aren't like quite as long. So like Jet or excuse me, Webb, I think he's like gonna hopefully get his starts lined up, stay consistent through all three races, and then hopefully for him, Jet makes a little mistake, and then I could see even Webb winning this thing if Jet makes a little rookie mistake.
Yeah, totally. He's got the consistency on his side, and I mean, yeah, I think you and I probably both agree Jet is for sure the favorite. But I would honestly be very surprised to not see Cooper Webb on the podium in one of those places.
And I think that I would predict him second. Last week, I predicted him third. But like, actually, he hasn't finished third all season. I was kind of hedging my like bets a little bit because he has a couple of fourths, couple of seconds. So I just thought, okay, third to be in the middle. Is he going to have an on night or an off night? But yeah, he like hasn't finished third all season. So I think I'm going to bump him up and kind of have that faith and predict him second next week in Indy.
Solid. Okay, so yeah, Sexton fourth, Justin Cooper again with a really really strong ride, fifth place. I mean, he was up, in third place, holding off Sexton and Roxon for a while. They both ended up getting by him in the end, but he still finished ahead of Anderson, Tomac, Plessinger. I mean, a lot of big names. Justin Cooper is getting good starts and just is being a front runner guy now.
Yeah, and he started third and actually stayed ahead of Sexton for about 5 laps longer than I thought he was
Yeah,
going to.
yeah.
He was like right there and holding his own, and he like looked like one of the top guys. And I know that this season for him hasn't been ideal. Not finishing exactly where he, you know, kind of wanted to. A couple of double-digit finishes, but he's been turning it around. In the last 4 weeks, making steady improvements. Every week, uh, got 11th, 7th, 6th, 5th, so he's trending in the right direction. So I really like what I've been seeing from him.
Yeah, and I mean, beating someone like Anderson, who I mean, Anderson, we were just a few weeks ago talking about being like one of the top title contender guys, and his recent results have been really poor. I mean, he's 10-9-6 in the last 3 rounds. So it's weird because I don't think he's slow. I mean, anytime you see him up there, he's able to battle. But I mean, is it just bad starts and bad luck?
I mean, it has to be bad starts because he started 12th, and actually he finished the highest out of anyone with the shittiest start as him. I mean, like the people of ahead of him started 1, 2, 6, 4, 3. So they're like kind of locked in right there the whole time. He started 12th and had to pass a lot of people on a hard track to pass. So he has the speed. He like knows how to pass. He's aggressive. But just he needs to improve those starts, and I could see him really getting top fives again if he just figured out the starts.
Yeah, started behind Eli Tomac, beat Eli Tomac.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that's
Past
pretty
Plessinger.
huge.
Yeah,
Yeah,
huge.
man, Plessinger. Yeah, I've got Plessinger on my team, and I mean, this is the kind of track I would honestly expect him to excel at. Rained a little early in the day, a little rutted up, a little sketchy. Like that's a Plessinger style track, and I've had him predicted fourth. And he's been, delivering good results. Besides when he, has a little crash out or something like that. But if he's staying on the bike, he's up there, on the podium a lot of the time. But yeah, not much from Plessinger on this one, unfortunately. Hopefully more next race.
This was his first race where like nothing really went wrong. He like didn't have a big crash. He just was flat out not fast enough. I mean, he won San Diego, got a few podiums, but just this week He just didn't have the speed. And I know that some weeks, some guys, for like whatever reason, if it's a sickness, or like didn't sleep well, or just not like feeling the track, but he just looked not fast. Just kind of coasted around an eighth. Started seventh, got eighth. Like he just didn't make any progress, and yeah, it didn't look good. So like next week, coming off a 18th and 8th, where do you think you're going to predict Mr. Plessinger next week, Kelly?
Oh, yeah, Plessinger is really hard to set predictions for, particularly because you never want to put too much weight on qualifying, but some guys you can kind of evaluate, how they're doing in qualifying and set your predictions accordingly. But Plessinger will get 14th place in qualifying and then come out and get on the podium in the race. So you can't even really rely on something like that. So, at this point in the season, when we've seen a lot of results already, guys that I've had on my team for the whole season, I don't like to make giant jumps in prediction changes. So I've had him running at 4. I may drop that to a 5 until he sort of proves otherwise. But look, he could walk out next week and get on the podium, no problem, and then I'll be eating my words.
So I actually have Plessinger in another league that I'm playing with my wife and a few other guys that I'm playing with, and I've like kind of had him at 6th the like past few weeks, because I do think that he's overperforming, and I think that probably for me 6th is the correct spot. Just seems like as the season goes on, he's kind of averaging back to where he was drafted around that spot. So I mean, like 6-7 makes sense to me.
Okay.
And then moving on to Barsha with a
Dude, Barsha.
decent finish. I mean, like, who thought that like we'd be getting excited saying that Barsha got 9th? But the last 4 races, he's been making steady improvements, and again, he's trending in the correct direction as well. And he is actually my sleeper for this week. I know that it's a little risky because he's not been riding like the Barsha of old. But I mean, like I said, every week for the past 4 weeks, he's slowly been making improvements, making improvements. Hopefully, he's been figuring something out. Starts have been his big issue. I mean, he's like averaging 12th into turn one. That obviously is not going to get it done in like this group of guys. But if he could just get some like good starts and like Triple Crown, he's a veteran. He knows how to ride. He knows how to navigate these Triple Crowns. And I have him down for his best or second best finish so far. I have him down for an 8th this week, coming into the Triple Crown.
Okay, it's funny. It's so random that we would do this, but I guess we both saw the same thing out of Barsha. But I also have him as my deep pick, and I have him on my team too. And his starts haven't been great, but even with the starts, the past several races, you watch him in the main, and he starts in 14th, and then he's back to 16th, and then he's maybe up to 12th or something like that. So it's race pace too. He has had huge problems, and last night, I honestly think the 9th doesn't even really represent the ride that he had. He looked really good in the heat race and better in the main. So it was really kind of the first ray of sunlight, I think, for Justin Barsha. So, I don't know how much improvement he's going to continue to have, because you got him 8th place. That's continually getting better. He does have a good track record at Triple Crown, so I'm not going to X that, but I'm not quite ready to say that. I still have him sitting at a 10th prediction on my team. I might bump that to like a 9th or something. I probably won't go any further than that unless I see some wild pace in qualifying.
Fair enough. Moving on to Malcolm Stewart. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it is getting to the point where it's not even like, oh man, he's just getting unlucky. I mean, it's just that he doesn't have the like consistency, the pace, the speed to like really do anything in the main. I mean, he's been like qualifying all right, qualified 5th. He got 3rd in the heat, but it's just the same old story with him. It just seems like in the
But
main,
horrible start too. 18th place start. Like you
yeah,
cannot do anything with that, with like this field. You cannot do anything with an 18th place start. Jet Lawrence couldn't have done anything with an 18th place start.
But it's always just, I mean, like something. I mean, oh man, someone did. Oh, dude, if a Malcolm only did this or only had this, it's getting to the point where I can't even stand up for him anymore. I mean, I love Malcolm as a rider. He's, you know, was fast. I was rooting for him all year, but I cannot really say anything optimistic or, you know, really anything good about him at this point. He's just been screwing up race after race.
Yeah, I had him as my deeper pick for last week. I mean, still, with a 10th place finish, a little bit of improvement on where he's averaged for the whole season. But I mean, he had been trending upwards, eighth, ninth, seventh the last few races before that. I had him predicted at an eighth is what I recommended him at, and he finished 10th. So I mean, two off, that would have been a 2 point prediction bonus for you. But yeah, I mean, is this sort of what we expect now? I mean, is he prediction 10, something like that?
Yeah, I'd say 9 or 10, really. I mean, if you average out all of his like finishing positions throughout the whole season, it's let's see, it is 12th is his average finishing position. So I mean, I know that he had a few big crashes in there that like brought that down, but I mean, I'd say probably 10th is like what I would expect from a guy like Malcolm. I mean, it's hard to like do anymore because then you're just, like hoping and wishing. And like really with the predictions, you like shouldn't hope and wish with those. I mean, those should be pretty cut and dry. Like, okay, this is the average. This is, kind of what I'm expecting as opposed to, like crossing your fingers.
Totally. All right. Before we move on to 250s, there's a few guys. We actually had some people sort of return from injuries this week. Colt Nichols is back, who I had actually picked him up a few weeks ago, just sort of in hopes he was going to be back soon, and had been substituting people in for him while he was out. Colt Nichols came back. Obviously, he's on the beta. That new factory team for this year. Ended up 13th place. Not super great, but hopefully some improvement for Colt. I'm going to hang on to him on my team. I'd been substituting in Shane McElrath for the last while. Shane beat him at this race, but I kind of think once Colt hits his flow, he should be, approaching the top 10.
Yeah, I would say so. And actually, he like snuck up too. That was kind of off my radar. And I saw him and I said, oh, wow, like I wonder how he's going to do. Should I have been paying more closer attention? And he really didn't do anything too special. But I mean, first race back is always tough. So, yeah, I mean, look for him to definitely bounce back and do better next week.
Yeah, and I mean, honestly, it's interesting to see him just for nothing other besides the fact that he's on that new beta team, and Colt is a good rider, and we can actually maybe see what the capabilities of that bike are in his hands. Because I mean, his teammate is Benny Bloss. Colt definitely would be considered a superior rider to Benny Bloss. So not taking any credit away from Bloss. He's been making a lot of, main events and getting some points, but maybe not, exploiting the outright potential of that beta bike. So they finished 13th, 14th, the two beta boys. But yeah, I hope to see, Colt pulling some stuff off of the beta. Adam Cianciarulo has recently come back from injury. He got a 12th place finish, not super great. And then Aaron Tanti is a guy that was supposed to be, doing pretty good preseason, had a preseason injury and came back. And then I think he was actually down on the track and got hurt. So he might be in and out real quick, unfortunately, with injuries, but that's the way the sport works.
So then moving on to 250, I mean, Tom Vial with the back-to-back wins. I mean, really, with the whole like, Faulkner injury, I mean, Faulkner left the door wide open. And I mean, Tom Vial wasn't the guy that I thought was going to be the one to barge in and, take over this like championship. But man, he's done it. He's looked good. I mean, this like past race with the, freaking number one overall qualifier, started first, just like led 17 laps, flag to flag, and won it. I mean, this is insane. It's actually with how the fantasy scoring works. I mean, he scored as many points as like Jet Lawrence did in fantasy. And like anytime that, you're like freaking 250 guy that you drafted, probably your your like third 250 guy is like scoring as many points as the like number one overall pick. That's a league winner right there, and a guy that you're definitely stoked to have on your team.
Yeah, Tom is killing it. And I mean, it kind of almost just seemed like he just needed to, pop his cherry in Daytona last week. And then he was just like, oh, I can win. Okay, got it. And just comes out and just, I mean, the Daytona we talked about, he, comes from Europe and like racing the MXGP type courses. And Daytona is a little more suited to that outdoor style. And he did really good in the outdoors last year. But yeah, then a much more typical Supercross track this week, and he just comes in and dominates everybody. So, I mean, I personally, I know this is wildly premature, but especially with Faulkner dropping out, just the crazy inconsistency that's happened in the 250 East class so far, I see him as the title favorite.
Yes. I mean, it's close. I would say either him or like McAdoo, because like McAdoo's just been super consistent. Like I know obviously he hasn't been as fast as Vial for these last two races because he's finished behind him, but it's still hard for me to say that Vial is the favorite. If he comes out and he wins next week, I mean, then like, okay, all my stock, I'm buying up Vial stock, but it just seems like almost too good to be true. And like maybe I'm not giving him enough credit, but I
I don't
mean,
think you are. I really don't, because I mean this race. I mean he got the whole shot, which is huge. And I talked about a few weeks ago that before Vial started winning these races, that Vial looked fast, but he was having issues with starts. And if he can get the whole shot, he can run away with it, and that's awesome. But I mean, whole shot aside, he was the fastest guy on the track in the 250 class,
for sure.
bar
And
none.
especially, I mean, totally flag to flag, fastest guy. I mean, especially for a guy coming over from like overseas and like kind of getting, all into the like supercross culture and American culture. I mean, kind of to like go off of what you said about how, like last week he said, oh, wow, I could win these things. I mean, confidence, especially for a foreigner like this, to like really feel like you belong and you could do this. I mean, they like talked about it on the broadcast, how like all week he had a little extra pep in his step, a little more confidence. And like starts are a like confidence plays a big role in start. It's like when you think I can be first to the corner and I'm not going to let anyone take that away from me, and you just pin it to the first turn, it is easier to get whole shots and get good starts when you're confident. And Vial is riding with that confidence. I love to see it. Like some people, oh man, I don't want to see a foreigner win and all this stuff. That is not friggin' my like belief at all. It's like whoever the fastest guy is, I like love to see talent, love to see people going fast. And right now, Tom Vial definitely is the fastest 250 guy right now. We'll see what he could do next week, but for sure he's fast.
Yeah, and so Tom Vial is my podium lock for next week. Uh, and this will really be the test of it if he's got the confidence for the starts, because we got 3 starts next week on the Triple Crown event. So I mean, you got to come out and deliver every single time. Shorter races, so if you get a bad start, you don't have as much time to recover. So yeah, hopefully that confidence comes into play. McAdoo honestly has been better at starts throughout this whole year. I may have picked McAdoo as my podium lock, but I picked him last week, which did work out. Ended up dead on the prediction that I had him, which is second place. Seems to be his favorite position to be in. I like McAdoo a lot for Triple Crowns as well. But yeah, I mean, between him and Vial, it's going to be an interesting little shootout for Triple Crown next week.
Yeah, and like McAdoo to go second. I mean, he just has one goal in mind, and that is get that top spot. I actually, I'm going to say it right now. I think McAdoo is going to win next week. I mean, that's not, one of my locks or one of my picks. That's just a little like vibe that I have that when a guy with as much speed as McAdoo is just getting second. I mean, there like comes a point where he just says, you know what? I'm like tired of this number two shit. I am going balls to the walls and, trying to get that number one spot. So I actually have McAdoo as my first finisher next week, but I still probably would like predict him second. Obviously, he got like 3 seconds in a row, and he's not one of those guys that you predict first anyway. So I would predict him second. Probably Vial, I would predict second as well. I don't think that he's quite earned the first overall prediction, even though he's a 1-2 in a row. It's just a matter of time, I think, before a guy like McAdoo or Hammaker or Brown.
Oh, I agree. He's not a
I don't even
first
want
place
to mention
lock by
Deegan's
any
name because I'm
means.
kind of pissed off at Deegan right now. I didn't
It's
even
gonna
want to
get weird,
freaking bring his
but
name up.
yeah, for sure. I mean, Deegan is something we'll talk about here, but Deegan's way back in the standings, so we got a few guys to talk about before we get to him. But I mean, before we leave McAdoo, yeah, I love him for next week, as long as he can stay away from chaos in the Triple Crown races, because he is weirdly a little bit of a chaos monger. I mean, the testicles incident. Even this week in the heat race, he gets together with Nick Romano and somehow busts off his rear fender from his bike, like just weird things happening. So he just has to avoid that kind of
But
stuff.
okay, we've talked about in the past. I mean, I like totally can like picture Tomac crashing, getting up slow, kind of lackadaisically. Plessinger had a crash a few weeks ago, kind of got up kind of slow. And when McAdoo crashed, he freaking got up, hopped on his bike, and was gone almost like nothing happened. And he slammed his balls and his face on the track, and he was up freaking like the fastest that I've seen anyone get up from a crash minus a rear fender. So, I mean, that just
Well, I mean,
really.
as long as his balls are in his pants, like he doesn't have any issue at all.
Well, even with his balls out, he doesn't have issue. I mean, he doesn't give a
Apparently.
shit about anything. Um,
Yeah.
But it's like seeing a guy though, it's like, to crash and get up, even in a heat, like it wasn't even the main, just, oh man, I want to get a good gate pick for the main. So that shows that he's really passionate. His like head's in it. And that was actually cool to see.
Totally. Now his teammate Seth Hammaker, who I have on my team, got third place. I've been a little trepid with Seth Hammaker because he qualifies really well and then has sometimes some lackluster performances in the main, and have been kind of having his prediction around fourth and not really wanting to move it up beyond that. But this week, I mean, he caught up to McAdoo and looked like he was going to make a pass for a while and ended up in third place. I'm moving my prediction for Hammaker up to third.
Yeah, that's probably a good spot. That's where I think he should be. And my wife, actually, she's like a big Supercross fan, and knows all the guys, follows a lot of the guys. And they were like interviewing Hammaker after I think it was the heat, and like she had looked and said, "Who is that? I've never seen that guy in my life." And he's like one of those guys that I feel like is a little like kind of under the radar. It's not like one of
Yeah.
those guys that you think, oh, this is the top guy, this is the championship guy, but I mean, he's always there, always around. Yeah, and like, he deserves a like podium prediction for sure. I'm uh, fourth, third, and third the last three races. I mean, he's definitely there. Definitely deserves to be recognized by all Supercross fans.
For sure. Pierce Brown broke off his fifth streak and got a fourth.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because you would like think, okay, three fifths in a row. Where do I? He a qualified fifth and got fifth, fifth, fifth. So, okay, where do you predict that guy? And he ended up getting a fourth. So that's cool to see. I mean, he's such a nice guy. Like, I love seeing him in his like interviews. He's a really cool dude, and like, I think that he can even pull a podium. Like, I'm not sure if it's going to be this like next week, but he's definitely has the speed to like get a podium, has the smarts to like be able to like go like consistent, ride well. So yeah, Pierce Brown, nothing but respect for him, and like hopefully he could keep on moving up there.
It's still third place in points, Pierce Brown too.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah, totally. Okay. A few other guys here. Jeremy Martin back with a good result in fifth. Jalik Swoll, who I know you picked up. Daxton Bennick in seventh, just cannot get a start to save his damn life. I mean, podium at the first round. I've got him on my team. I keep being optimistic with my predictions with him, and he just gets the worst start and has to work his way through the field. So please, Daxton, get a good start next week. Cody Schock back in eighth. So those were the two, Daxton and Cody Schock, that benefited from the Deegan penalty. Deegan in ninth place. after taking out Cody Shock at the last corner, I know you're bursting at the seams to talk about Hayden Deegan.
I mean, listen, it's like I am never, rude or like I don't say shit to like talk shit. I mean, that's not who I am. But I mean, realistically,
But here
I,
goes.
but I honestly just lost a lot of respect for like Deegan this like past race. And I get he's young and like we've all made mistakes. I made stupid mistakes when I was 18. But as a whole, over the whole night, okay, he had two major incidents, one with Hammaker, one with Shock. And like really it's like if like one of those things happen just like on their own, then like okay, so be it, like shit happens. But the fact that they both happened made it a 10 times bigger deal because Deegan in the heat, starts on the outside, crosses across everyone and gets tangled up and like okay, like shit happens. I mean, um Hammaker did nothing wrong in that crash. He was just trying to ride his race. And then Deegan pulled a little freaking brat move and freaking kicked his bike like, oh my gosh, get off my bike. Oh my God, I can't believe you did that to me. And it was just totally like wrong. And he was like totally in the wrong. But I was like, okay, so be it. Then he
If anyone
goes,
caused that crash, it was him.
yeah, 100%. And then after the race, he like
Yeah.
goes to freaking his pit and it's just like, we're trying to look all hard, yelling at him, acting like, oh my God. Like, I mean, that like totally rubbed me the wrong way, but I was like, okay, I'll like freaking let him have it. Okay, whatever. Then in the main, freaking Deegan to like get seventh on the last turn goes and just slams Cody Shock out of the way. Totally freaking Deegan's fault. Totally like last turn on a main, I get there's like a little bit of grace where, okay, you're going to pass hard on the last turn of a main. But the fact that he slammed Cody Shock off the track, and then after the race, Cody Shock was like going up to him saying, hey, man, what the fuck? Like, why'd you do that? Then for Deegan's acting like, oh, man, that's racing. Rubbin's racing. No big deal. Dude, you just freaking went to Hammaker's pit to talk shit for something that was your fault. And then now you're acting like, oh, man, Shock's in the wrong. Dude, grow up. I mean,
By the
freaking
way,
comment.
I don't know. I don't know if you've even seen this because this just came out like a few hours ago, but Shock broke his collarbone in that crash.
No, yeah, I did not see that. But like Deegan came out with a freaking half-ass apology post, probably from his like manager or the guy that
His
runs his
PR team,
Facebook. Yeah.
1,000%. Yeah.
And like literally 90% of the comments are saying exactly what I'm saying. It's like these are freaking diehard racing fans who watch Supercross every week, and these aren't, freaking politically correct, freaking guys that like don't know what like racing is. It's like everyone understands the like nuance of race. Yes, rubbing's racing, but to see all the comments of people just as disappointed and irritated and like calling him a spoiled brat, I mean, like, it is just really telling of how bad he did screw up. And I mean, I mean,
Yeah.
stuff like this doesn't really stick. I mean, I know that next week everyone's going to be cheering him on, which is fine. I get it. You know, uh, I mean, short memories are always best and like stuff like this, but it just really, really rubbed me the wrong way.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of parallels happening right here with what's going on with Deegan and what happened with like Jet and the whole Anderson incident earlier in the year, where you've got a young guy who's fast. He's super hyped and, has this crazy social media following and like just, all this hype basically around him. And then just kind of getting involved with somebody else and, letting your adrenaline get the best of you, during a race and, making some, stupid decisions. And I mean, he may end up kind of like Jet, like in a position where he's kind of confused. Is like, wait, how did I just become the bad guy? How are people talking shit about me in, Instagram comments and stuff like that? So, I mean, this is relatively minor. It should blow over as long as he can mature.
I mean, like, no matter the like, industry you're in, whether it be supercross or construction or tech or like freaking law enforcement, whatever it is, when you're a rookie, you have to kind of tread a little more lightly. I mean, there are like people above you who like you should kind of respect. And I get, racing's a little different where it's just you versus them and like really they're your like enemy on the track. It's not like a coworker. But still, you have to have a form of respect when you're new and like kind of forming these, like battles and friendships and everything, you have to tread a little lightly. And I know that freaking Deegan was freaking born with a throttle in his hand and has been doing this his whole life and almost does feel a little, like a little entitled, but still, I don't like all these freaking new guys thinking that they're the hottest shit on the planet. For win some races, Deegan, because Deegan was number one overall in our freaking rankings this year, and he hasn't even backed it up. It's one thing if he's doing what like Jet's doing, where he's winning races and like first in the championship and everything's cool. Freaking Deegan, freaking the last two races haven't even been on the podium. He's been on the podium once all year. Freaking, save that shit
Yeah.
when you're fucking on the podium, bro.
Okay. Okay. So drama aside, he finished ninth this week. It was kind of a seventh, but then he got disciplined. Where do we expect to predict him moving forward?
Okay, so with that all being said, I'm gonna take a deep breath now. Whew. Clear the air, clear my thoughts. He is fast. With all that being said, he is
Yeah.
fast. So where do you predict Deegan next week? With all of his shenanigans and everything like that, I would probably predict him fourth. I would predict him off the podium, but
Yeah.
like right there, maybe battling, but I'd say fourth.
Yeah, and it also seems like he may be a little bit beat up from his crazy get off he had in qualifying at Daytona still, and that might have had something to do with his a little lackluster performance right now. But yeah, I would say fourth or fifth, unless he comes out flying in qualifying or something like that. But okay, yeah, I think the only other notable really worth talking about is Max Anstey, who unfortunately had a mechanical. Now he's lost the red plate. Anstey was, talking like, they gave a interview with him right after his bike broke down on the side of the track, like it's over. It's like, oh my gosh, my entire championship is completely over. And this is a total, tough shot for him right there. But I couldn't believe he was talking like that when his bike is sitting there with the red plate on it still.
I know, and like you like want to be, optimistic and hopeful, but even Ricky Carmichael said, "Hey, like the fact of the matter is, this is like a 250. They have half the races to like make up those points." And like Ricky was almost saying, it's like tough to say, and I want to keep it positive, but that was his like championship. And like plus it's like not like Anstey got, first, and then his bike broke. He was struggling and like not
That's the
even
only
being
thing I was
super
going to say.
consistent. Yeah.
That's the only thing I was going to say is, his championship, I think, is more in danger because of his lackluster performance than, this mechanical failure. Because I think there's still what, like 5 East Coast rounds. This including some East West rounds in there too. But he still has time to make up points. But yeah, he's got to start,
He
winning
isn't
races, be on the
winning.
podium, that kind of thing, if he's going to be a title contender.
He isn't winning. Unfortunately, like maybe he could like kind of, scrap and try to get a podium in the like championship, but I think that, getting 1 point last race, that's just too many points to make up. But real quick, I just want to say 10th place, Chance Hymas. That was my deep pick of the week, and he was freaking got a 6 start. He started 5th, qualified 5th. Chance Hymas is fast. He is the real deal, and like he's a like rookie, obviously too, and like gonna make some mistakes. But like keep your eye on like Chance Hymas. I know that I already did my like deep pick is Barsha, but Chance is fast, and he for sure is like gonna get 7th or 8th, 7th, 6th, somewhere up there. He has that speed. Would have beat Deegan if like he didn't have that little crash, but he was fast all night long.
And I believe Chance is actually riding with an injury and doing well in spite of it. So yeah, I totally agree. Imus is looking good. But okay, we're over time. Let's wrap it up. Indianapolis Triple Crown next week. Check it out. We're stoked. It's going to be awesome. Follow us on social media if you haven't already. We post matchup results. We post updates with the site, which we just put out some new cool updates with the site. You can go check that out on our Instagram, Speed League Fantasy. Anything else?
That's all. Good luck, guys.
See you next week.